Okay, boys and girls, let's get ready to do Math Message 4.1. And this lesson is going to be measuring with a ruler. So let's get started with a warm-up. All right, for the first one, if we have 2 times 6, and remember, boys and girls, anytime we do multiply by 2, all we're doing is we're going to double the other factor. So 2 times 6 would be 12. So if I know that 2 times 6 is 12, what do I have to do to figure out 3 times 6? Well, here I had 2 6's, here I have 3, so I just need to add one more. So 12 plus 6 would give me 18. Okay. 2 times 8, well, 2 times 8 is 16 because I'm just going to double that factor. And how can I use that to help me with 3 times 8? Well, I had 2 8's here. Now I have 3, so I'm just going to add another 8 on. So 3 times 8 must equal 24. Okay, our next one, 5 times 3. We can count by 5s, 5, 10, 15. Okay, and I can use that 5 times 3 to help me with 6 times 3. Here I have 5 3's. Here I have 6 3's, so I'm just going to add another 3 on. So 6 times 3 must equal 18. 5 times 8, well, I know 5 times 8 is 40 by skip counting. And I can use 5 times 8 to help me with 6 times 8 because here I have 5 8's. I have 6 8's, so I'm just going to add another 8 on. So 6 8's must be 48. 10 times 4, well, we can skip count by 10's. So 10 times 4 would equal 40. And I can use that to help me figure out 9 times 4. But this time, instead of adding a group of 4, I lost a group of 4, so I'm going to subtract that group of 4. So 40 minus 4 would give me 36. 10 times 7 is 70, and I can use that to help me with 9 times 7. Here I had 10 groups of 7. Now I only have 9 groups of 7, so I'm going to subtract one group of 7, which then would give me 63. So 9 times 6 equals 63. All right, there was our quick little warm-up we're going to have. So let's get started on our math lesson. And to get us started, I'm going to have you watch a short video here.
Mrs. Bellotti has given you some objects to measure and sort into different groups. You need to measure these objects to the nearest quarter inch. A quarter inch? What does that mean? In this lesson, you will learn how to measure objects to the nearest half and quarter inch by using a ruler. Let's review. We measure things in different ways. We can measure how long something is, how heavy something is, how much fits inside, how much time has gone by, and what value something has. We use different tools to measure in different ways. To measure how long something is, or in other words, to measure distance, we can use rulers.
Sorry about that.
We can use rulers. They may look different, however, they are all standard, which means an inch is the same size on all measuring tools. Let's take a closer look at this ruler. When I look at this ruler, I see marks on the ruler that are labeled with numbers, as well as several marks in between the labeled ones. We can measure things to the nearest inch if we just look at the labeled marks. But if we want to use the lines in between, we can measure things to the nearest half or quarter inch. 2 half inches go together to make a whole inch. They are equal. This nail is 1/2 inch long. This nail is 1 inch long. This paperclip is 1 inch long, and this paperclip is 1/2 inch long, because one part of the blue bar is filled in. Looking at this paperclip again, it is important to note that when we're measuring to the nearest half inch, chances are the paperclips are not going to line up exactly with the inch or half inch mark. This paperclip is a little longer than an inch, but we can see that it is closer to the inch mark than the 1.5 inch mark. This paperclip is closer to the half inch mark than the 0 inch mark. Measuring to the half inch is good, but if we want to be more exact, we can measure to the nearest smaller part. We can measure to the nearest quarter inch. When measuring to the nearest quarter of an inch, think of an inch separated into 4 equal parts. Each part is 1/4. If we are measuring objects equal to or less than an inch to the nearest quarter inch, the objects will either measure 1/4 of an inch, 2/4 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch, or 4/4 of an inch. Because 4/4 of an inch is really equal to 1 whole inch, we don't usually say something is 4/4 of an inch. We'd simply say 1 inch. Let's look at the objects Miss Galati has given to you. This push pin is the same length as 3 filled boxes, so we say it's 3/4 of an inch long. All these objects are 1/4 of an inch long. Here are some objects that are 2/4 of an inch long. This green olive is 3/4 of an inch long. And finally, here's a hairpin that measures 4/4 of an inch long, or 1 whole inch. In this lesson, you learned how to measure objects to the nearest half and quarter inch by using a ruler.
All right, boys and girls, hopefully you understood what that is. So you're going to need a ruler that has inches on one side and centimeters on another. All right, so as we look at this ruler we have here, as she told us in our video that we just watched, okay, here's 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. Okay, so we have 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and 1 inch. Okay? Remember, she said 4/4. We don't usually say 4/4. We usually say that it is 1 inch. So how might we use the arrow on the roller to help us with measuring? Notice your arrow right here. And what is that arrow pointed to? The 0. Okay, so that's where we would start our measuring. So if we were going to measure something, we would want to line it up right there where that arrow is at. All right, here we have ruler A and B, 2 different rulers, and if we want to look at them, how are they different? Well, if you notice here on ruler A, which we just looked at, it's in inches. and ruler B is in centimeters. So what do we notice about our centimeters and our inches? Centimeters are a lot smaller than our inches, but 1 inch is still 1 inch. All right, so I want you to get your rulers out now, okay, and turn to journal page 99, and I want you to measure these line segments, okay? So you may want to hit pause right now and take a few minutes and measure these line segments. All right, so on number 1, if we measured it with ruler A, which if you remember, ruler A was our inches, and ruler B is our centimeters, okay? So ruler A is about 3 inches long. And number 1, and number 2's line segment is about 5 inches long. If we take ruler B and measure those same line segments, number 1 should have been about 8 centimeters, and number 2 should have been about 13 centimeters. All right, on the next one, 3, 4, and 5, you were to measure each line segment to the nearest ½ inch. Remember, it's just which one is it closest to, okay? So number 3, your line segment 3, using ruler A in inches, it was about 3 1/2 inches. And when I measured that same line segment with the centimeter side, it was about 9 centimeters. And remember, we're measuring to the nearest ½ inch. Okay, number 4, that line segment measured in inches was about 4 1/2 inches. And when we measured with the centimeter side, it should have been about 11 centimeters. And then number 5 is about 4 inches. And the line segment in number 5 was about 10 centimeters. Okay, so how could I explain how to use ruler A to measure to the nearest ½ inch? I could say that I saw that the end of the line segment you want to be as exact as you can when you're measuring, was a little over halfway. Halfway mark between 3 and 4, so I knew it was about 3 inches, or 3 1/2, I'm sorry, 3 1/2 inches. Okay, let's look at these rulers, okay? Think about which ruler. Now, we're turning to journal page 100 now, all right? And if we look at these 4 rulers that we have here, and we think about which ruler we use to do our correct measurings, okay? So for the first one, question number 1, it says, which ruler can you use to measure accurately? Which one cannot be used? Okay, so if I look at these rulers, rulers 1, ruler 2, and ruler 3 can be used to measure because they have the same size unit, okay? The same size between here. These are your units. You look here, they're the same distance, same size units. Doesn't matter what unit they are, but they're the same size. Notice down here with unit or number ruler 4, okay, we go from 0 to 1, and then look how close this unit is. Okay, so it's different. Then we go wide here, and we go close together again. So those units we could not use because the units are not the same size. Okay, and I think we answered that question already. How could you use ruler 2 to measure the length of a pencil? Okay, first you could line up the pencil with the first one, and then count the spaces until I get to the end of the pencil. Okay, so if I were using ruler 2 and I lined my pencil up, okay, I just count my units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and that would tell me I would have 5 units for that pencil. Okay, which of the above rulers, if I'm using them, which of these rulers could I use to be more precise measurements? Okay, which one would be more precise measurements? Okay, and that would give us ruler number 3. It would give us more precise notice because they have marked the ½ inches in between. If you remember our video, when we got more precise, we went to smaller measurements. We went from 1 inch back to 1/2 to get a little more precise, and then we measured to our 1/4 inch to get us even closer and more precise. So remember, when you want to be more precise, you want to measure to the smallest and closest that you can get and be more precise. All right, that ends it. So that ends our lesson for lesson 4.1 on measurement.